Welcome back to Money Mindset Mentors. We are so excited to be able to be here with Amy today and to be talking about money, all things with our mindset, and how do we get to a place where we really feel the purpose of money and that we are able to say we are inviting to that and we're able to let it come into our lives and know that we are going to use it for the very reason it was intended for. So thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about, I just attended the Speaker in a Day event, and it was absolutely amazing. And at the event, I had 3 women come up to me and they asked me this question, and I thought it was so key, Amy. They said to me, how do you get to a place where you can really turn and shift your mindset? Sometimes we think we're there, and then we find that we're right back into hoarding our money, and we're right back into there's never going to be enough. And so what do you think about that, Amy?
Oh, I think just like we talked a little bit about prior to hopping on, I think it's so prevalent now, shifting your mindset from being in a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset is a huge thing for people. And it's very hard to do, especially when a lot of us probably grew up not wealthy. A lot of people, especially probably that listen to this podcast would be in our same group. Like we didn't grow up with a lot. And so I think when that happens, it's oftentimes leads us to just, try and hold on to what we have instead of trying to really navigate and look at, the best use of the money that we have. So I'll launch right into, for us, we certainly had a budget and things all the way from the time that we were young and first married. One of the reasons that we dated for 3 years before we got married. And one of the reasons for that was because we were both so nervous about money. So we were both very worried that it was going to be something that we were not going to be able to, there wouldn't be, we wouldn't be able to sustain or wouldn't have enough, like that whole scarcity mindset thing. So we waited quite a while to get married. And then once we got married, we kind of realized that it was almost opposite of that. It was like, oh, there's both of us working and we're both budget conscious. And, so we had a budget from the beginning. And that really helped us because I think having just a little bit always to kind of keep you feeling safe is helpful to start, because then you're not always causing yourself some anxiety. Like, what happens if I need new tires on my car? What happens if my furnace breaks down? What happens if some of these other big ticket items go out? If you have that backup fund. So that's probably a great place to start for people. And you would probably have a lot to say about people starting with a budget, you know what I mean? Starting out that way. So
yes, I love that. I love where you talk about the realness of, do we want to get married? This is a crazy thing. And it makes me laugh so hard because I was just in a conversation with a young man, and he's been dating this girl for quite a while, and I can tell that he's wanting to take the next step. And finally, I just asked, I was like, what are you afraid of? And oh my word, he just jumped out of his mouth. It was so funny. Without even skipping a beat, he said, a mortgage. And so it is right there on the top of everybody's mind, right? How do we move forward, especially with inflation and all of this stuff around us in the world? It just seems to be rising. And how do we know that we can be in that peace, that financial peace, that mindset of, it's okay, I can prepare for this. And so I love that you said that. One thing that I would love to bring up that was big for me was when I learned that 80% of money has to do with our behaviors, and it's only 20% numbers. And when I learned that, when I went, wait a minute, so it's not so much, I used to feel like, well, if I had this much more of a raise, or if I was bringing in this kind of money, then I could do that. But when I realized that if I just got my behaviors in check, and if I started figuring out what it was like for me as a person, what are my behaviors around money? So for example, am I a spender or am I a saver? And what's driving that? What's driving my spending? What's driving my saving, right? Do I am I a planned giver or do I give spontaneously? That one was a big one for me.
That's a good one. I like that. That's not something I've ever even thought about. And I am a spontaneous giver, 100%. I am not a planned giver. I am a spontaneous giver. So that's super interesting.
I love that. We could have such conversation on that because I'm a planned giver. I'm switching to the planned sorry.
Spontaneous.
Spontaneous one. Yeah. See, I can't even get it out of my mouth. I'm switching to that because my husband is spontaneous, but I am more of a, let's put it in the budget. Let's put it in the budget. We can give we can give abundantly, but do we put it in the budget? So we budget our Christmas, we budget graduation gifts, we budget wedding gifts, right? So we know what we're spending when it's that time. And the other day, my husband said, hey, there was this family and I was behind him at Walmart and I just bought their groceries. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did that feel? And he was like, it was amazing to see the smile on their face, to just see them light up. And I was like, I love that. And he said, and I know it wasn't in the budget. And I said, no, but we can rework the budget. Like, that's what I love about a budget. It doesn't have to be this planned, set in stone moment, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I would love to hear about some of your spontaneous giving.
My favorite thing, honestly, to do with people is I'm really busy and, but I love people and I love like the interactions that I have with my clients and my people. So I think one of my favorite things to do is honestly deliver cookies to people. So like if, I know somebody's having a hard week or, somebody reaches out with a problem or something like that. That I love. Like I just will send like a dozen cookies, from Chip or Crumble or whatever is close to their house. The other thing I love to do is when I am on vacations or I'm out grocery shopping, if I see something that reminds me of someone, I love to buy it. I love to buy it and I love to just give it to them and be like, this reminded me of you. It sparks such awesome conversations usually. So the other thing too, with me being a real estate agent, I'm like all over the place all the time. So when I drive by somebody's house, even, like, oh, we closed that one, or like I'm in the neighborhood, like just reaching out and saying, hey, like the same thing, cookies, or like, hey, I was driving by your neighborhood and I like remembered, like blah, 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 hope everything's going well. Like those interactions to me are like they're valuable and they're deep and I just love that. So I'm super spontaneous. Maybe I'm mixed. Like I definitely budget for some of them, like Christmas for sure is a bigger one. Birthdays, you know what I mean? Stuff like that you kind of plan, but there's usually at least one birthday a month, I feel like, in my life. So I kind of just plan on at least once a month I'm buying something, birthday or something, but I'm super spontaneous when it comes to giving, but that's not something I've ever like even put together, like thought about. So that's super interesting.
Yeah, well, and I loved your examples of cookies because then it made me go in my mind, oh wait, you do spontaneously do that. Like I will make cookies and take them out and deliver them. And I will, those little tiny things. I love taking people to lunch. Like I will, if I can see that a coworker is just having a rough day, I love to take them to lunch. And I never realized that would count as spontaneous. Look at me being a spontaneous. Yes, a spontaneous giver.
I feel like sometimes those ones mean a lot more to people too, like, cause it's just like your day to day and kind of everybody's in the grind and they're, just moving. And then if somebody just takes you off guard and just like a little teeny gift even is like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Thanks for thinking about me,
Yes. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said I'm a little bit of both, because it really is this moderation in all things, right? You wouldn't want to give everything because then you wouldn't have those opportunities for, oh, I need new tires on my vehicle and now I've emptied all that I have. So it really is this balance of moderation and having both of those. You want to be a saver, but you want to be a spender as well, right? There are things that we need to be putting our money back out there, and we need that exchange, right? Because that's what money is. It's an exchange. We are using this resource to get this resource. And so you can exchange it. I know I have one of my children who definitely is a spender. And so budgeting has been definitely a learning curve for him, but he's loving it. He's like, okay, I can do these three things, because that's all he set in his budget was these three things. And he's been very successful with that. And now he's ready for the next step. And so that's what I would want to tell any of you ladies out there listening is it is small baby steps, and you are going to hear us talk about our journey and grab what resonates with you. What is it that resonates with you? Maybe it's, you know what, I want to start looking at the behavior of like, what is my behavior when it comes to money? And maybe it is that you're looking at that. And I am more than happy to post a little short quiz where you can take it and you can say, oh, am I a spender or am I a saver? Do I do planned giving or do I do spontaneous giving? And where am I at with retirement? Do I think I'm going to have enough for retirement, or do I think I'm going to have barely enough? Like, where are you at with that? And those money behaviors. And it's your behaviors that a lot of time will let you see your limitations and that scarcity mindset. You're going to start seeing that why are you a spender, or why are you a saver, right? I know a lot of people will say, oh, I save everything because I don't know if it's ever coming back. So I want to hold every single thing. And then I've had some spenders say to me, well, I want to enjoy it while I have it because it's going to go away at some point. And why not use it on this?
Yep.
You know?
And I like what you said too about being able to switch. Like you're saying, oh, I'm going to switch that. Like I want to be more like this. So I love that. I think we're fluid beings. I just 100% believe that we can change and grow. And I think that change is usually hard. But I think that if we truly want to be a different way, I think it's totally possible for people to do that. So I love that you said that. You're like, I'm usually like this, but I really want to change. I really want to be a little bit more like this. But probably still, just like you said, find that balance and be able to do kind of both. So
and taking, and a baby step. So like one thing that you said to me that I went, oh, I can totally do that. And that's going to help me on that spontaneous giving journey is think about somebody. Every time that I go somewhere, I just need to think like, who's on my mind today? And what is it that I can get for them? And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, right? It could be a thank you card. It could be.
I bought salt for someone the other day. So it can be like, it was just like this weird variety pack of salt. And I'm like, oh, I know her and she likes salt. She likes different salts, you know what I mean? And so it's just teeny things, you know, that can be, you know, for people. So I love that. I think it's awesome. It creates that like connection and just like those deep friendships, I think that last a long time. So.
Yes. And I loved when you had said before, a little before we jumped on here, you had said, if you can't manage $1,000, you're never going to get $10,000. And so really looking at what does that look like in managing it? And part of that managing is being thoughtful of others and turning around and helping when we can and when needed.
Yeah, I so agree. I read, I can't remember who it was by. I read a book. It was called Go Givers Get More, I think, like that was called, but it was super about I've read a lot of giving books, but like that one was a really good one. And then there was another one that was called like the gift, I'm gonna make it wrong, I think gift connoisseur or something like that, like really learning a little bit about people, and that kind of helps trigger those things like when you're out and about, even, you know, like just to think about somebody, because if you know a little bit about that person, even if you don't know them very well, if you have paid attention in things that you've talked about, you know, you can oftentimes pick up those little things that you know, people enjoy, and then that does trigger you to think of them. So yeah, certainly there's good books on giving, but that's definitely a good way to incorporate that mindset. I think an abundance mindset is by feeling that gratitude for where you're at and being able to pass that on to the people around you, because then people don't, if you're acting that way towards people, they don't have the same, their feelings then change. They like, oh, I'm worth enough, like I'm, you know, valuable enough to be given to, I should also, then they have those good feelings and want to pass on to everything else. And that kind of leads back to where we were talking, you know, like behavior, most of the behavior that we have 80%, you know, like you were saying, 80% of that behavior is how our money is spent and managed, you know, so, and then 20% is, this is how much I make, this is how much I have to spend, this is how much I have to give, this is how much I have to save. So I think that kind of goes back to kind of, you know, what we were originally talking about, just that mindset and how we manage our money. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you had mentioned the books, because that's been a big part of my journey as I wanted to change my relationship with money, right? Because my relationship was broken too. My behaviors were not great with money, and I really wanted to change those relationships. And so as I started to heal my relationship with money, I started looking at all kinds of sources. So for, you know, I had my primary sources that I went to first, and then I had my secondary sources. And something that I found in my primary sources and my secondary sources was giving. It is a big deal. Like, it is this proven theory and principle that if you really want money to come back to you, you've got to give it. You've got to give it. You've got to be generous with it. You can't hoard it and think, oh, this is the way that I keep it. You've got to be able to see another and take care of another in the way that you can. And I love that you had shared some so simple ways that you can do this. It is not meaning that, oh, well, I need to go buy school clothes for this whole family. No, that's not. I mean, great if you can, right? But it's not just that. It's a thank you card. It's a plate of cookies. It's a lunch date. It's, you know, these little tiny things. It can be a small little, hey, I know you collect stamps and I saw these stamps, right? It doesn't have to be this big thing. The amazing thing, did you read the story? It was in one of Dave Ramsey's books, and he talked about this man back in the day when there was layaway. Do you remember layaway?
I remember layaway.
Layaway. So layaway, for anybody, if you're, you know, a younger generation and don't know layaway, I'll give you a quick what's up on layaway. It was where you could go and you could get all of your Christmas or whatever, and you could take it to the back of the store and they would hold it for you while you made payments on layaway. So this man went in and he was walking by and he turned into the layaway department and he looked at the cashier and he said, "Can I talk to the manager?" So he called the manager in, and he says, "I'm just curious, how much money is sitting in layaway? How much?" And the manager was like, "Oh, well, I can give you that number." And he rambles off this large sum of money. Okay. Large sum of money, which doesn't surprise me, because I know that 80% live paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. So here we are on layaway, right? So he takes out a check and he takes out his pen and he says, "I would like to pay off everybody's layaway." And he writes out this check and he says, "But I never want people to know it was me." And he hands it over and he says, "And I don't want you to tell them till they come pick it up." Can you imagine living your life?
That would be awesome.
Yes. And getting to this place where that is the type of living that you are able to do. Yeah. And once we tap into this abundance, like, we can have that. We can literally live our lives in a way and manage that money and be good stewards so that we can turn around and help like we have never been able to help before.
Yeah. It's actually one of my goals. So one of my goals is to be able to, we did like a little trip for a place called the Children's Hope Foundation. We went to Mexico and did some stuff for orphanages down there. And it's a cool organization. And one of my goals, we went to one of their fundraisers up here, and it was really cool to see some of the people that were able to donate like really big amounts to those organizations that you can actually see the good that they're doing. And it's direct, involvement. So certainly there's a time and a space for this small giving, and there's a time and a place for the big giving in it. One of our goals was to be able to, donate a good chunk of money. Some of these people were allowed, being able to donate $30,000, in a night, to just be able to like donate to people who, where you've been to the orphanage and you've seen the children, and you know what I mean? So it's kind of a neat thing. So I agree with you. That's a pretty awesome thing to be able to live your life that way, so that you can do big and small things to kind of help create that energy and that abundance, you know what I mean, in the world. So
and it brings it back to the small steps now, right? That's the goal. That's where we want to go. And I loved when on our very, very first episode, you talked about your 5-year plan, right? Where you want to be in 5 years from now. And looking at that, even with giving, what do I want to be able to give in 5 years? And right now it might be a plate of cookies, but where do you want that giving to, what do you want that to look like in 5 years? And knowing that the more that you give, it will find its way back to you. It has been, yeah, it's been so eye-opening for me as I have tested that, right? I have experimented on that, and I wanted to know, if I give, will it come back? And I am blown away at how I can send it out. And before I even have time to really even go back in and look, the very next time I look, there is money deposited in my account, right? It just, it's amazing the way that it works. It's like this boomerang, right? You put it out there, it finds its way back. And it's just, it's incredible when we tap into, number one, naming our behaviors, right? We got to know, why are we doing the things that we're doing? Because then you can look in and see, how are we going to change it? And then where do we want to be in 5 years with this? What are our money goals? Where do we want to be in 5 years? And then looking at those behaviors and saying, what behavior do I need to replace my current behavior with so that I can get there? Yeah,
I agree. And I think what you, as a good starting place, I think probably for people, is to maybe have you post that, quiz you were talking about. Probably would be good for people to analyze that as something. I mean, I've been budgeting for years. It's not something I've ever even thought about, especially not in the giving sector. So something like that would probably help to shift people's mindset a little bit, to kind of identify where they're at and kind of decide, where they want to go, and shift where they need to in order to start that kind of shift in their mindset and be more abundant. So.
Yeah, I will definitely post that for sure. Any final thoughts, Amy?
Nope. I think that's good. I think that we touched on a lot. I think we end up more in more gratitude and giving than I thought we were going to. We were really going to focus on money today, but I think that it probably needed to be there. I think everyone's kind of struggling right now and just having a little bit of a hard time. So I think that's probably what the world needs a little bit more of. So.
I think so too, especially when the world right now is very much in competition and, scarcity, right? There's not going to be enough. And so we need to take while we can get. And definitely, I love that that's where our conversation led us to this generosity. And I will definitely post, I will try to get that posted in the next day or two. Just come back and check the comments. And that's where I'll post that. It's below in the comments. I will post the quiz and take that quiz, find out about what your behaviors are like. If you want to do it as a couple, pass it on to your husband, see where you're at and where you want to go. So This has been amazing. Thank you, ladies. Have a great day.